Alright, so in this video, I'm going to tell you 3 things that I strongly dislike about the Road Glide. Let's check it out. Alright, what's going on YouTube? BK Low is back in the building. We are out here in beautiful, beautiful Washington. This is going to be the last video that I'm doing on our Washington trip here in late August. I'm really glad that I did bring my camera. You know, I'm always on the fence if I want to motovlog while we do these vacations, and I had a lot of fun recording on this one. I think this footage is going to be a lot of fun to edit. But yeah, so like if you see in my previous video, you know that we rented a Road Glide for this trip, and I did a video on 5 things that I liked. I had a very positive experience with this bike, still am, but I do gotta be real with you as always, and I gotta share a couple things that I do not like. Especially, you know, if you're someone that's in the market for this bike or etc. I feel like it's worth putting it out there, right? To give this whole thing a fair shake. So thing number 1 that I really do not like about the Road Glide, and this is probably the biggest thing that I dislike about this bike, and that is these stock bars are horrendous, man. The riding position that these bars put you in is like, alright, you'll get away with it for maybe 100 miles, I feel like. But after 100 miles, because it puts your arms so low, it's putting your wrist in like a really strange position where, dude, it's like, it was just straining my wrist after maybe like 200 miles, and I would have to leave the thing on cruise control just to give my hand a rest long enough to hit the throttle again. So I don't know, man, like I see plenty of people rocking these stock bars, and I guess the only thing I could think of is it's people who are doing like maybe like 50 to 100 mile days, nothing crazy to the point where they're not feeling that fatigue on their wrists. But yeah, man, it's just a terrible riding position. I would highly recommend experimenting with other bar setups if you decide to get this bike. And again, I'm on the shorter side of the spectrum. I'm only 5'7", right? So if I'm a shorter guy and I'm feeling that, I cannot even imagine what that would feel like for someone who is taller. The good news is if you saw my other video before this on 5 things I like, the Road Glide is one of the few touring models that you could actually run T-bars on, and I am a firm believer that T-bars are the best in terms of the most optimal riding position where you could really get the most out of the bike, and also just putting your arms parallel so you could reduce fatigue in the hands and the wrists. So yeah, man, I would, if I ever got this bike, those bars would easily be the first thing to go, way before the exhaust. I would run a stock exhaust and have this thing whistling for years before I did another day with these bars. Alright, so now that we got that out of the way, thing number 2 that I really don't like about this bike in terms of how it comes stock, and that is the seat. So what I will say is it's really nice for my passenger. Jen has expressed that this has been the most comfortable bike she has been on, and she's been on a couple other touring models, so she is really happy with the seat. But I strongly dislike this seat, and the biggest reason for that is I'm sliding around in it, man. And it's like, I don't know if maybe I need to put on some more weight or something, but if I really get on the throttle, or if I'm a little bit more aggressive on the brake, I'm moving around in the seat, and that's not a feeling I want to feel. You know, like my Lucky Dave seat or my Saddleman seat on my other Dyna, it really locks you into that riding position, and with the combination of the texture of the seat and the step up, you're not going nowhere no matter how hard you throttle. With this seat, I'm like sliding around all over the place, and that does not inspire confidence when it comes to riding. So I don't know, man, the seat is pretty bad. And maybe if you're a bigger guy, maybe that won't happen, I don't know. But for me, 5'7", 155 pounds, I'm moving all over the damn place, man. I'm not too excited about that. So yeah, I would definitely be switching up the seat. I think I would definitely throw a Lucky Dave seat on here, which they do make for touring models now. I think that would not only look good, but also just allow you to ride this bike the way it should be ridden. Alright, so thing number 3 that I dislike about this bike, it is the navigation system. So at first I was like trying to be optimistic about it, and I was like, why is everyone complaining about this? I was able to like put in Starbucks in there, and it took me to a Starbucks. But then after using it for a couple hundred miles on and off, I quickly began to see why people complain about the navigation system, and just at the end of the day wind up not even using it and just using their phones with Google Maps or whatever you're running. But yeah, the navigation system for what people are paying for this bike is completely unacceptable. Like, look at this thing. It got like a giant out-of-scale motorcycle pointed in whatever direction, and it's like changing all the time, not really giving me much information. It's telling me I'm gonna have to like veer to the left at some point, but it's not telling me when. There's no like countdown on the miles of when I'm gonna have to make that move. And there's just like certain places where it's like I'm putting in where we need to go and it's just not picking up, you know, and it's just like, I don't know, I look at it and it's just not giving me the information that I need. So, you know, it was like on this trip, because of that, we were kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place in terms of navigation, because I'm not getting good service out here. So even if I ran Google Maps through my Lexan, it just wasn't that helpful. So what we wound up having to do is just me and Jenny would have to link up on the Lexan FT4s. She would have to use her phone to get navigation, and then she would tell me turn by turn, which is kind of funny. It's a very, very unique navigation to have your girlfriend be the actual voice in real time. But it was only so often you could do something like that. But yeah, I mean, come on, man. Like, people are paying a lot of money for this bike, and you know, you're selling it as a touring model, and part of touring is needing to know where you need to go. So it's like they really need to like rethink the interface and just the general navigation system itself. And I don't know if that means like partnering up with like Google or like doing something, but I've had navigation systems in the mid to late 2000s that were way better and way more informative than what's on this bike right now. So, but yeah, those are the 3 things that I'm walking away not being too psyched about with this bike. At the end of the day, I did say in my other video that if I ever were to get a touring model, it would be this bike at this point. But those are just some of the changes I would make if I were to ever buy this. But yeah, as always, let me know what you guys think. Do you agree? Do you disagree with those points that I made? Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's a 4th thing on there that I should add. But yeah, I was able to narrow it down to those 3 things. Besides those, I don't want you to think that I'm leaving it off in a really negative place. This bike has been a lot of fun, and at the end of the day, it has got us to point A to point B, being a comfortable bike, but also still being a really fun bike. So I don't want to leave it off being negative. You know, I'm not about negativity in this channel, but I did need to address those things that could be improved. As always, thank you for watching. Stay safe out there and stay low. BK Low is out.